California's Governor Gavin Newsom is promising that he'll implement gun control measures in his state by copying the legal tactics used by Texas to enact what is essentially a ban on abortion.
Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States. Now, what is this action, which is very technical, what does it mean for you? What does it mean for you? What is called devaluation, devaluation, devaluation.
My name is Josh Lauderdale, and this is The Conquest.
Hey, and welcome to Connect. Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse. I want to share what we imagine is possible, the experiences you'll have, the creative economy we'll all build, and the technology that needs to be invented, as well as how we're going to all do this together. The basic story of technology in our lifetimes is how it's given us the power to express ourselves and experience the world with ever greater richness. Back when I started Facebook, that mostly meant text that we typed on computers. Then we all got phones with cameras, and the internet became much more visual. And recently, as connections got faster, video has become the main way that we experience content. We've gone from desktop to web to phones, from text to photos to video, but this isn't the end of the line. The next platform and medium will be even more immersive, an embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it.
Upon this announcement of Mark Zuckerberg making the announcement of his metaverse idea and theory and platform and technology that he's going to bring to you out of the goodness of his heart, I don't know what reality everybody's living in. It's already like that. It's already the metaverse. One reality is the Constitution doesn't exist. One reality says that the Constitution takes away freedom, so we must abolish it. The other reality, the other political party's reality, is the Constitution is the only thing that provides freedom. True, that's what my reality, the reality that I'm in is the reality that the Constitution is the only thing that gives the world freedom anymore. So, this is all new. Can you imagine a $1 trillion algorithm aimed directly and personalized to your head? So, just to show you how big this Facebook algorithm is that they're planning to bring into your brain, it's a $1 trillion algorithm. Now, let's take a look at, and this goes in with money too. We're only printing $1 trillion bills now. We got Jeff Bezos has a net worth of $201 billion. And I'm not hating on Jeff Bezos because of how much money he has, but all I want to do is bring a little bit of light, shed a little bit of light on what kind of numbers we're talking about. So we got Facebook with a $1 trillion algorithm, personalized, to be directly targeted towards your head. A $1 trillion algorithm pointed at your head that's personalized to control you. So, we're going to compare 1 million, 1 billion, and 1 trillion. So here it is. 1 million seconds is about 11 and a half days. That's pretty cool. 11 and a half days, 1 million seconds, 11 and a half days. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Well, 1 billion, it shouldn't be too far off that, right? I mean, it goes from 1 million to 1 billion. Well, 1 billion seconds is 32 years. So 1 million seconds is 11 and a half days. 1 billion seconds with that B is 32 years. That's a staggering amount of time. That's the drastic difference between 1 million and 1 billion. 11 and a half days and 32 years. What's the difference between 1 million and 1 trillion? So 1 million, we went from 11 and a half days. 1 million seconds would be 11 and a half days. 1 trillion seconds is 32,000 years. Holy crap. So we went from 11 and a half days to 32 years to 32,000 years. This is how big the difference is in these numbers. You're talking about an algorithm aimed at $1 trillion. You're talking about a $1 trillion algorithm aimed at your head, designed to mine and capture everything about you so it can be used against you. Please tell me how this is not going to be, if it's not already, please enlighten me how this is not going to be used for mind control. If it's not Facebook, it's going to be the government with what is known as the Patriot Act, where it gives them every bit of authority to mine every single thing about you, from your texts, your Facebook posts, your everything you could possibly imagine. Any time that you get on the internet, they're going to steal your mind. A $1 trillion algorithm that's personalized for you.
It would be literally like putting a device into your brain.
It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need.
You're going to have a wardrobe of virtual clothes for different occasions, designed by different creators and from different apps and experiences.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
inside a computer program?
Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self.
So I really want to set the scene of the topic being discussed today because the metaverse has existed for longer than you know, and most people are hearing about it now from Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and Apple. However, the metaverse, at least the digital metaverse, has existed at least when I ran into this idea of virtual reality to where I'm like, whoa, this could actually be real, where people were buying virtual land with real currency. I first saw this in 2017 when Bitcoin went from like $3,000 to 20 grand, and everybody was going crazy about Bitcoin. This is when Bitcoin made the world stage, okay? And so I stumbled upon this cryptocurrency called Decentraland. Now, Decentraland is a virtual reality platform powered by the Ethereum blockchain that allows users to create, experience, and monetize content and applications. Now, in this virtual reality world, users purchase plots of land they can later navigate, build upon, and monetize. So you can literally go onto this platform or game, buy virtual land with real money. It costs real money because you have to use the cryptocurrency called mana. Now, you would take your dollars, go to an exchange, and exchange it for mana. And then you would take your mana into this virtual reality platform, where then you would buy virtual land and then hope that it goes up in value. Or you can build a business on it, such as let's say, a virtual casino, or a virtual movie theater, or something like that. You could build a business where your office building would actually be in the metaverse, and everybody would plug in, get on this platform, and go to work. I mean, this is exactly the things that Mark Zuckerberg is talking about. Welcome to the metaverse, where what is real? I mean, the whole point of the metaverse and augmented reality, bringing you into the internet instead of bringing the internet to you, they're going to bring you into the internet.
Hey, and welcome to Connect. Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse. I want to share what we imagine is possible, the experiences you'll have, the creative economy we'll all build, and the technology that needs to be invented, as well as how we're going to all do this together. The basic story of technology in our lifetimes is how it's given us the power to express ourselves and experience the world with ever greater richness. And when you're in a meeting in the metaverse, it'll feel like you're right in the room together, making eye contact, having a shared sense of space, and not just looking at a grid of faces on a screen. That's what we mean by an embodied internet. That's what we mean by an embodied internet. That's what we mean by an embodied internet. By an embodied internet. By an embodied internet.
Mark Zuckerberg is trying to suck as much of the metaverse market share as he possibly can, but that doesn't mean the other big tech companies are just going to roll over and settle for second place. What about Apple? Well, they have big plans to make themselves market leaders in the metaverse. In fact, Apple plans to unveil an augmented reality device before the end of 2022, and this is just the beginning. Speaking about the device, renowned Apple analyst Ming-Chi Kuo said it would be installed with two processors. One of the processors will be high-end and similar to the M1 used in Mac models. The chip features a dedicated neural engine with 16 processing cores of its own, aimed at handling insane artificial intelligence tasks, an essential aspect of the metaverse. The second, lower-end processor will handle sensor-related computing. Flo's statements have to be taken seriously because he has a solid reputation for correctly predicting Apple's activities. A perfect example is in 2014, when he accurately predicted the launch of the Apple Watch. While other tech giants have rushed to launch their own versions of the metaverse, Apple, in its usual fashion, has chosen to hold its cards close to its chest. It appears that they want to let the other competitors flood the market with rushed, half-baked gadgets, then disrupt the market with a game-changing product that will win over the masses.
That's what we mean by an embodied internet.
Then disrupt the market with a game-changing product that will win over the masses.
By an embodied internet. By an embodied internet.
Then disrupt the market with a game-changing product that will win over the masses. Win over the masses.
That's what we mean by an embodied internet.
So, how is this possible? I mean, the whole idea of being in a simulation right now seems kind of ridiculous, right? But what is reality? Well, now I've recently watched the new Matrix movie, Matrix Resolutions, and this is all interesting that all of this is coming out right around the time when Mark Zuckerberg and Apple and all these different big tech companies are announcing their new technology that brings you into the internet. Instead of bringing the internet to you, they're going to try to bring you into the internet. Now, if you are wondering how this could be a simulation right now, well, what is real? Well, real is really just electrical signals, like they said in the Matrix, now this wasn't in Matrix Resolutions, this was done like 20 years ago. But Morpheus says,
This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This is the world that you know.
Now, your brain is a computer, right? Now, this is expansion on what he's saying. So, like, your brain is a computer receiving electrical signals, decoding information. It's processing information. So everything that you see right now is mathematical information that your brain picks up, carries information through some kind of pattern that your brain decodes, this pattern of electrical signals and pattern of electrical current, essentially. So that's all real is, really. Because if you don't have any electrical signals coming to your brain, well, then you can't respond to your outside environment, you're not able to reproduce, so on and so forth, and you're not alive anymore, you're dead. So what is real? Well, we could only be alive. It could be possible that we are only alive in this simulation. Because that's all reality or consciousness is. Otherwise, you're dead, right? And then we go into intelligence, but then that's probably more of like, well, how good is how good is the species in this simulation or program? How well is their computer or program's ability to decode information? Now, if you think that this is something out of like some sci-fi fantasy land, well, actually there's evidence I can point to that would suggest that being able to decode the brain like a computer and then process the information that your brain picks up, basically mind reading, decoding your brain to do what the brain tells something to do. So I have, for example, I have Tesla's Neuralink. Now, I'm not saying that Tesla is planning to take over your mind or whatever, but I'm saying that, well, it's possible that a computer can actually interpret the brain signals or the electrical current into something that can be interpreted by something else on the outside and literally read the electrical signals or the electrical patterns that your brain produces. Check this out. It's kind of freaky.
This is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learned to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. We can interact with the Neuralinks simply by pairing them to an iPhone, just as you might pair your phone to a Bluetooth speaker. The links record from more than 2,000 electrodes implanted in the regions of Pager's motor cortex that coordinate hand and arm movements. Neurons in this region modulate their activity with intended hand movement. For example, some might become more active when he moves his hand up, and others when he moves it to the right. By recording from many neurons and feeding their activity into a decoder algorithm, we are able to predict Pager's intended hand movements in real time. First, we calibrate the decoder by recording neural activity as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor to targets presented on the screen. As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between patterns of neural activity and the different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. Our goal is to enable a person with paralysis to use a computer or phone with their brain activity alone. Because they wouldn't be able to move a joystick, they would calibrate the decoder by imagining hand movements to targets. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Pager to do is to play his favorite video game, Pong. To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down. We've removed the joystick altogether. Now that he's up to speed, let's increase the difficulty and see how well Pager can play with the Neuralink. As you can see, Pager is amazingly good at Mind Pong. He's focused, and he's playing entirely of his own volition. It's not magic. The reason Neuralink works is because it's recording and decoding electrical signals from the brain.
So, the whole point of augmented reality is to try to make it as real as possible. Now, if you combine augmented reality to where if it was to get so realistic and so high definition that it looks 100% real, well then, not your eyeballs are literally taking in different information. It's taking in different information by the visualizations, right? So now, if you take augmented reality glasses and you swarm somebody's eyes, information decoders, or information receptors with a new reality that's so real that that information looks real, well, great. Now, you have no idea on how to distinguish what is real and what is not. Because it's so real, your information that you are perceiving, that your brain is decoding, is real. Right? Because that's the whole point of augmented reality or virtual reality. Get it as real as possible. Kind of like a Black Mirror episode where people would play this virtual reality game, but it'd be so real that there's really no difference between reality and this game. So if that's not enough, if augmented reality glasses aren't enough, I don't think it's enough to the extent of what you would totally, completely lose reality, even though for some people it would be, because, Facebook and Apple and all the big tech, they already have a ginormous amount of data on you that they've already mined. They already know everything. They know how you think. They've mapped out your brain. There's probably an algorithm, and then it categorizes you into some weird category that you're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like Facebook will probably put you into a terrorist category, or, you're a liberal, you're a Republican, you're kind of in between, you're a conservative, you're a progressive, you're a feminist, whatever the category may be. So you want to give people like this, who know you almost better than you, like they've introduced into The Social Dilemma, the Netflix documentary. So if you haven't seen that, you should probably go watch it and pay attention to what's happening around. Okay? So if you combine, if augmented reality glasses aren't enough to fully embody you into the internet, like Mark Zuckerberg talks about, fully embodied internet, well, then we can also look at Neuralink. Well, Neuralink decodes information, right? It decodes brain information, your brain information. Okay, so we got a visual in front of our face, so real you can't distinguish, well, do I have the glasses on or not? And then we have a device that decodes your brain signals. It decodes the patterns of your brain, or the brain's electrical pulses that carries this information that gets decoded. We have a device that can do that. What has been happening in China recently? Well, this isn't recent. It's been happening for a long time. I believe there's over 25 sanctions on China for mind control experiments and mind control practices and techniques using electromagnetism.
China is reportedly looking for a way to teach soldiers to operate weapons with just their minds. Fox News national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin has that story.
It would be literally like putting a device into your brain that can launch a missile.
It sounds like a sci-fi thriller. New intelligence shows China is using technologies like gene editing and brain-machine interfaces to enhance military capabilities and control its own people. Machines that could allow a Chinese commando to discharge a weapon with just a thought, not a trigger finger.
That's what they mean by brain control technology. It's like a new field.
This month, the Biden administration targeted the emerging threat by levying sanctions on 37 Chinese biotechnology companies that have ties to this research that experts say include so-called mind control weapons.
Now, like I said, what's reality in the brain? Electricity, electrical patterns that carry information, right? So how is electricity produced, though? For electricity to be produced, you need a magnetic field. Now, your brain, if you are able to manipulate that electrical pattern or pulse with a magnet or some kind of magnetic force field or force, you can literally change somebody's reality. You can insert memories being patterns that get stored in the brain somewhere. If you are able to just manipulate those electrical brain patterns in your head, you would literally change everybody's realities. You can also implant ideas and memories into other people's heads. Now, this might seem like what I'm trying to talk about would be the movie Inception. Now, Inception is this idea where if you have an idea, this idea may not actually be yours, it may be somebody else's idea, or brain control with augmented reality glasses, a device like Neuralink, and electromagnetism. Yeah, mind control is 100% possible. I mean, there's already over 400,000 accounts of recent brain control by China. Now, a large portion of these accounts are the Uyghur population, a subgroup of the Muslim religion or something like that. I don't know. I'm not some like huge religiously, I would say, educated. However, that's what they are. They're being discriminated by their religion. Right now, they are being held in concentration camps. They are being held in forced labor camps. They are being held in experimentation labs. And a lot of this is electromagnetic mind control. Like, this is insane, people. If this stuff isn't alarming to you, if we're not already in the metaverse, like, the physicists and all the scientists say to trust, or not trust. Well, they do say that, but everything that you see is math. If the math isn't there, then it's not real. That's the whole point of the Big Bang Theory. Like, the physics have to be there for anything to be real or be considered serious, right? So everything is just math, and math is a matrix of information. So everything is information. There's a matrix of information, mathematical. It's a matrix of information, and depending on the makeup of that matrix of information, that's how you create objects, right? That's how you do it in computer programming as well. It's called object-oriented programming, and object-oriented programming didn't come from nowhere, right? It's kind of like DNA. The whole point of object-oriented programming is to program or make objects that you can then use later again. So it would kind of be like the DNA of a program, in a way. I know if you're a computer programmer, you're probably like, maybe not exactly, or if you're a computer scientist, but I mean, the whole idea or the whole concept of these ideas didn't come from nowhere. At least, I don't believe they came from nowhere. This could have, for example, could have strived, the whole point of object-oriented programming could have strived of, so how do we make something digital that looks like an object? So what does an object have? You look at an object, and you might describe it by characteristics, or the math, which are then, if you boiled it down to in math terms or physics or whatever math you want to look at, you could then say, oh, yeah, that's the object. But what I'm trying to say is I would look at this object and then describe the information that my eyes are receiving. So everything is boiled down to math, a mathematical arrangement of particles, atoms, ions, whatever, electrons, whatever, all the ons and is and isms, whatever, I don't know. I'm not some crazy, insane scientist. However, I think I'm an aware person and I'm more realistic than a large portion of, most people on Earth. I mean, in this metaverse of Earth and this metaverse of information that we all share. It's kind of like a universe. Yeah, it's a universe, but it's a metaverse within a universe. So within all of our different realities, people are like, I just listened to this the other day I think it was on the radio. People across the world, it's crazy. Even countries with cell phones and aren't considered third world countries have never heard of Jeffrey Epstein. They have no idea who Jeffrey Epstein is. People overseas in Italy or whatever, they don't even know who Jeffrey Epstein is. That's a different metaverse, because I'm pretty sure we all share the same, reality that we all know who Jeffrey Epstein is at this point, right? I mean, that's not like the example that I'm trying to portray or show you that the dangers of this, of all these technologies that are coming out now. And I'm just sitting here going, am I the only one? Am I the only millennial that is actually looking at the world like, yo, what is going on? One reality. I mean, this is how crazy it's going to get. Even if we are able to, now this kind of does sound fun. So like in Decentraland, there'd be different ages of property. So you could go into the Bronze Age, buy land in this Bronze Aged theme, or, if I wanted to live in, this is going to be modern time travel, into the metaverse. We could buy whatever era we want to live in and go live in there. And essentially, human actions won't change, really. I mean, it'll just play out the same way. We'll just have different clothes on, different, hairstyles. So, which age are we in right now? The information age, of course, but we also know of different metaverses or timelines. This is all crazy. This is all putting it all into your head. Now, instead of bringing you to the app through a constant notification, it's already kind of like the movie or the movie series, The Matrix. Because, I can explain this. Netflix, or you get on Facebook and you give them the all right to give you a notification. Now, when you leave the notification, or when you leave, the gatekeeper of the Matrix says, "Oh, no, you don't. You're not leaving. Oh, Mr. Anderson." Boom, notification. If you ignore it, Mr. Anderson, so on and so forth. Eventually, you will come back to Facebook and give them all of their information that they need to control you. They already censor facts. This is called coercive mind control, in which China has been doing for many decades, except for it's about to get nuts. It's about to get insane. I mean, this is what Scientology boils down to. You get them into the metaverse, and you control their minds by controlling the information that your mind sees. And remember, information is reality. Reality is electrical signals decoded by your computer or your brain based on the information that it receives. So, again, I'm going to ask, is reality an illusion or hallucination then? Well, actually, even if we aren't in a matrix, I can point to be like, well, yeah, it's still an illusion. Reality is an illusion because what your eyes see the brain decodes that information, but how does it decode that information? What your eyes do is it takes in light, and then it displays this information on the back of your retina, where your brain then receives certain information that automatically triggers an electrical signal, a pattern. So I really want to comment on what Morpheus says here. Listen to this.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage. Born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
You notice how he says this is a prison? It's kind of funny how there's this Netflix documentary called The Social Dilemma. Now, The Social Dilemma, in the beginning, it also mentions how the social dilemma is actually like you're in your own prison. That is why you feel the way you do, because you are in your own mental prison, because, you know, for some reason, everybody's reality's changed to think that everybody's got to look perfect, everybody's got to look like a Instagram model, or, you know, a hustler model, or a Playboy model, or, you know, look like Barbie, or whatever. So now you put yourself in this prison because now you don't see yourself like that. You feel like your social standing is diminished. And this is so peculiar because about 4 or 5 months ago, I was looking into the prisoner's dilemma. Now, the prisoner's dilemma is part of game theory, which game theory is the science of logical decision making, or it can be boiled down to social science, psychology, something that Facebook specializes in. So I thought it was interesting. The Metaverse, the prisoner's dilemma, the Matrix, all mentioning the prisoner. Now, the prisoner's dilemma tries to explain why people betray each other with the same objective. So, it can be presented as follows. 2 members of a criminal organization are arrested and imprisoned. Each prisoner is in solitary confinement with no means of communicating with the other. The prosecutors lack sufficient evidence to convict the pair on the principal charge, but they have enough to convict both on a lesser charge. Simultaneously, the prosecutors offer each prisoner a bargain. Each prisoner is given the opportunity either to betray the other by testifying that the other committed the crime, or to cooperate with the other by remaining silent. So in other words, you and a friend have been taken into custody, and you are separated into 2 different rooms. You're given an option, snitch or don't snitch. Now, the same goal would be for these 2 buddies or accomplices to work together, right? But you are given an option. Do you snitch or don't snitch? If you snitch, you get set free. If you don't snitch, you get 2 years. Both of you will get 2 years if both of you remain silent. Or partner other than the prison sentences they got and their decision by itself will not affect their reputation in the future. So yeah, this is all taking into account. So you're going to be a prisoner inside of the metaverse. It's going to be a matrix. I mean, here Mark Zuckerberg is talking about clothes, and if you snitch, you get set free, and the person who you snitched on, who didn't snitch on you, or you snitched on them, they committed the crime, there's enough evidence to convict them, you're set free. That person who didn't snitch is then given 8 years in prison. So do you both not snitch and get 4 years in prison, or does one of you snitch and either you get set free or you get 8 years in prison? Now, it is implied that the prisoners will have no opportunity to reward or punish their part. Everything that you see will be digital. You'll have an avatar, which would be your body, because what is reality, remember? They're going to brainwash you. Coercive persuasion. Brainwashing is called mind control. Menticide, coercion, coercive persuasion, thought control, thought reform, and re-education. It's the concept that the human mind can be altered or controlled by certain psychological techniques. Brainwashing is said to reduce its subject's ability to think critically or independently, to allow the introduction of new unwanted thoughts and ideas into their minds, as well to change their attitudes, values, and beliefs. Every election ever. Except for now, it's got $1 trillion algorithm pointed directly at your head to bring your brain into the metaverse, into a brainwashing device and network. This is mind control. Everyone's attitudes has changed. The more time you spend on Facebook, your attitude will change. Your values and beliefs will be altered. I guarantee you it. I mean, check this out. Brainwashing, the word brainwash, was first described by a guy who, check this out. During the Korean War, some American prisoners of war cooperated with the Chinese captors. So they were taken prisoners of war, and some American prisoners cooperated with Chinese captors. So here it is, again, the prisoner's dilemma. They cooperated with their Chinese captors, and even in a few cases, defected to their side. British radio operator Robert W. Ford and British Army Colonel James Carney also claimed that the Chinese subjected them to brainwashing techniques during their imprisonment. The U.S. military and government laid charges of brainwashing in an effort to undermine confessions made by prisoners of war to war crimes, including biological warfare. After Chinese radio broadcasts claimed to quote Frank Schwabel, Chief of Staff of the 1st Marine Air Wing, admitted to participating in germ warfare, United Nations Commander General Mark W. Clark. Whether these statements ever passed the lips of these unfortunate men is doubtful. If they did, however, too familiar with their mind-annihilating methods of these communists and extortion, whatever words they want, the men themselves are not to blame, and they have my deepest sympathy for having been used in this indomitable way. So here we got talking about biological warfare, COVID, germ warfare, COVID, and mind control, Facebook. Of course, most people don't even know that their mind is being controlled. Because, this is inception. You have ideas, values, and beliefs that you think that are yours, but they're not. You have no idea that somebody implanted those ideas, thoughts, values, beliefs, essentially that they implanted this information into your head. You would have no idea. So that's what they're saying here. You see this? It's getting worse. It's getting worse. Be careful, because be careful, because there's people that are trying to conquer you. And if this isn't going to conquer you, you need to be aware so that you can actually keep an eye on your kids, because this is insane.